Hello and welcome back. In this video, we'll be covering about ransomware. You probably heard a lot about ransomware, and basically you are hijacking somebody's computer using cryptography without giving them the key. And as we have covered already, if you don't know the key, it is near impossible to crack current cryptography systems. Okay. So ransomware is classified as one of the malware family because essentially it's a software that runs on your computer with a malicious intent. Okay, it encrypts the system file using a cryptography system. Can be either symmetric or asymmetric, as long as the key is kept secret by the attacker. A lot of people have different combinations of cryptography systems being used, so it really doesn't matter. You just have to choose one that's most suitable for the context. Okay, the attacker can decrypt the file using the private key, okay, or the secret key. In order to get your files decrypted, attackers ask for ransom. So if you pay some money, they will give you the key to unlock your system. But normally pay through the cryptocurrency for anonymity. So when we covered about the bitcoins, we know that all the transactions can be anonymous because every time you are generating a new wallet address to that. Attackers often do not decrypt files after receiving the money. This has been the case, but sometimes some attackers are nice. They run their ransomware campaign for a period of time, and after that they gave out the keys to decrypt. But having said that, some attackers don't even know the actual key. Some people do complain that they paid the ransom, got the key, but didn't work, and yeah. So ideally, you don't get the ransomware. Ransomware as a service can be purchased online as well. I don't know whether I should be telling this. Anyway, it can be purchased online, but if you are at a level of just purchasing a ransomware as a service, then probably you will also have a good chance being caught because you probably don't know all the nitsy-bitsy details about how to operate it successfully. Don't operate it. Yeah. So, ransomware, is it a big issue? Well, this is the figure that captured up till 2016, where it really picked up a lot, right? So if you think about crypto war or what's the few other popular ones? I have a few more examples later. Okay, it really picked up, and what happens after that? Well, people kept measuring. It did go up, so you can see that the 2016 fourth quartile level is nearly 500,000, and if we go to the other graph, the highest one is about 1.2 million. So in the later graph, the highest is over 2 million. So you can see the scale is a little bit out of range. And essentially, the trend hasn't really died off. So it's kind of hanging in there. And this trend is continuing today. Okay. So number of mobile ransomware installed packages detected by Kaspersky Lab in 2018 shows you that the numbers actually increasing quite a bit. So ransomware is not a dying end. Rather, it is still picking up, and a lot of people are having issues because of this. So ransomware can affect system in many different ways. Firstly, the availability is gone, so you can think that as a denial of service. It also compromises the security configurations by locking specific files that are needed for your, say, anti-malware or antiviruses to function. Then it is disabling them as a result. It can also tamper data, not directly, but because of the locking mechanisms, it could distort the information if the decryption is not done correctly and so forth. Okay, and because of that, you also have some sensitive information that may be lost. As an example, like people never recovering their keys, and obviously it's a breach of confidentiality. Okay. So ransomwares usually have a 6-phase cycle. So we're going to cover each one. Okay. Firstly, it's the distribution and installation. So I'm grouping some together. Basically, it's to convince the victim to download the executable of the ransomware. So I hope you can kind of see where this is going, right? When we're talking about cross-site scripting, reflected one, people were lured to click the links. Here also, people are lured to execute the ransomware. And now you see that a lot of access control has been done carefully. So the system, if you configure it correctly, can be very secure. So a lot of people are now targeting humans as the entry points, because human with the rights to execute is easier to exploit, easier than to exploiting current strongly built systems. Okay. Use exploit kit to lure people to click links, send malicious email attachments, USB driver installations, malvertising, and so forth. So all those mediums can be used to spread the ransomware. Okay. Next, we have the communication. So first, identify the system configuration. What the ransomware do is just check up on your system whether it can run or not. Okay. Also, it will establish the connection to the attack server. However, because modern systems establish so many different connections, it is very difficult to pick this up. Okay, but sometimes the good network intrusion detection systems can pick those. Okay, and then transmit victim files. So this is where the attacker can steal information, sensitive information, and then transmit encryption details used to lock the system. So this is all orchestrated automatically usually. So every individual will have different keys used to lock the system that they're using. Okay, and finally, the encryption process is run, not finally, we have 6 stages. So next step is the encryption process is run silently. So user actually doesn't know that it's being encrypted. And sometimes when you face the screen saying, hey, your computer has been locked, please pay blah, 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 the encryption may still be happening, because think about the amount of files that are on your system. To find all of them and to encrypt every single file, it takes quite a lot of time. So if the ransomware just started to run, and if you turn it off, then there's a good chance that many files are still not encrypted. However, by the time, normally when they design it, by the time you see this screen saying pay the ransom, then a majority of the file system or like important files that you have may already been locked. Okay. Search files that matches the extensions starting from the local files, then removable media, then network locations. Okay, so it's going in order of a few important files and then start locking them up. Malware copies are added as auto-run to the registry key. So this means even if you turn it off, when you start it again, it will auto-run as it begins. So it will continue locking the remaining files from that point. And also the malware can also remove backup files. So this makes it much harder. If you only have local backups, then you are likely to lose. You won't be able to recover using your local backups. Okay. Remember, always have the backup system somewhere else. Okay. So from here, you might ask, the ransomware can selectively encrypt files at various locations, but why would you do that? Okay, you can pause the video here and have a think. Okay, because questions like this are very good candidate for, say, exams. Aha. Anyway, so to ensure the system is still functional. So if you just go and encrypt everything, for example, on Windows Server or the DLLs, or the files that are needed to execute this operating system, if you crash the operating system, the user can't even see the ransom message. Okay, so you still want to keep bare minimum functionality of your of the target system to ensure that they can see the message and do stuff to retrieve the key from you and maybe unlock after that. Yeah. So this includes the needing the application to display the ransom message. Okay. So last step, the ransom demand. Okay. So notify the victim of the ransomware. Ta-da! Please pay 0.5 Bitcoin to this account, or whatever how much they're requesting nowadays. And use anonymous currency to receive the ransom, and popularize the Bitcoin, of course, but any other mechanisms can be utilized by them. Attackers may not unlock the system even with the paid ransom, so be wary about that. But typically nowadays, many of the attackers do. Why? Because if no attackers unlock, then the whole ecosystem of the ransomware doesn't work. So it's kind of like a human psychologist, which I have no idea and won't be dealing about it. But basically, if nobody unlocks ransomwares, then eventually people will think that, okay, my files are locked, it will never be locked whether I pay or not, so I'm not going to pay, right? So that kind of mindset kicks in. So many people nowadays do provide you the key to unlock as well. Okay, so let's have a look at demo then. So here we are. You will play with this example in the lab. When's the ransomware lab? Anyway, you play with it. It does come with lots of warnings. Do follow every single step, otherwise you may end up ruining your computer. I have warned you. Anyway, so this is the code that comes with. It has three main functions. It's got the main, modify, and discover. So main function is the executing the ransomware to run, where it's going to call the discover function to see what kind of files I want to encrypt, as well as the modify, about how the modification can happen. So encryption standards can go in there. Okay, so here's the main one. I'm not going to go into details about this. You can read through, but essentially I'm using an AES encryption standard. So here you will not be able to brute force this unless the key is very short. There's a section where I can set the key. Here it's going to be some very weak password, and the code allows you to specify the directory you want to lock. So for this instance, I specified a specific folder inside my home directory, but if you just delete everything and just leave a backslash, then it's going to start encrypting from the root folder. Okay, and if you do that, you can ruin your computer. Don't do that. Okay. So we have specified this home folder, and in the discover code, you have a lot of files you can encrypt. I have commented everything out because I don't want to encrypt everything. Rather, I'm just going to encrypt some images. Okay. So here is my home testing folder. I have PNG and JPG file, as long as some README file I stole from another lab. Okay, so here I can open original, good. Also the space, good, working good. So it's working fine. So what we'll do is run our ransomware file, which is going to run on this folder only, encrypting only the images. Okay. Main. Okay, so to encrypt, I just run the main and it's done. And you can instantly see that it's doing its encryption. Okay, so now I try to open the image file again, it's going to fail because it has been encrypted, and for it to open as a JPG file, it needs to have the header matching as the JPG. Same with the PNG, it's been encrypted. I can open. However, I didn't specify the text files to be encrypted, so I can still open my text file as I did before. Okay, so now I'm going to decrypt. Okay, and for this exercise, I let the code to be retrieved. You can change this, but you can change the password, but make sure you also change the message. Otherwise, if you encrypt using a key and decrypt using a different string, you're going to ruin the encryption cycle, and you may never get the items back. Okay, so if I correctly decrypt, they should come back to what they were, like this. So I can see them again, my original JPG and the space PNG. Okay. So that's essentially how ransomware works. It's very simple, but quite effective. And in addition to those encryption stuff, you will put in some communication code to make sure it talks with your malicious server and so forth. Okay. So there are a few different types of ransomware you should be aware of. So what we have seen here is the crypto ransomware. Okay. So the local ransomware is kind of like a bigger type, and then crypto is one specific type of local ransomware. But there are a few others that roams around, like the master boot record ransomware. The master boot record is attacked, so the message appears on boot up. Okay, so you turn it off, and after encrypting everything, you turn it up, it shows up. So which means you can't really escape that out. Web server encrypting ransomware, the servers can be encrypted as well, because essentially servers are computers that are running that handles client-server connections. Okay, and mobile device ransomware affects mobile devices. A few notable encryption examples includes CryptoLocker back in 2013, infecting over 500,000 devices, and then we have a few others all the way down to WannaCry, NotPetya, and I haven't updated this list since 2018, so there must be more. Okay, so protection. Well, you should have backup files, and not only local backup files, but you should have remote backups as well as a physical backup separated from your current local systems. Keep up to date with security. A lot of those security updates do take note of current trends in ransomwares and what they violate, and try to patch those up. Review permissions. This is very important. If you give permissions for executables to have, say, your user privilege or even root privilege, then they will be able to execute that. Okay. Security policy for phishing. Yeah, always update. Don't get phished, please. Anti-ransomware can be used. Typically, they can be packaged with anti-malware products, but they may have some dedicated ones that you can use. And also, there may be some decryption tools. And what those decryption tools basically are is cryptanalysis packaged up as the decryption tools. So they're not always going to use, but sometimes they may be able to find some decryption key that can be used to unlock your computers. Anyway, that's the ransomware stuff. I will stop here. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.